bilingual families. Today we will be talking about choosing toys. And it's a perfect time because Christmas is coming up, and I know all of your children probably have a long list of toys that they're wanting. So before we get started, I want you to think about your favorite play memory. And if you want, you can pause the video and maybe write a little paragraph or something about your favorite play memory. Trust me, this is important because it'll really take you back to all the feelings and everything that was involved with that play memory. So if you want, you can pause the video so that you can write those down. Okay, now I'm going to share my favorite play memory. Here on the left you can see my grandpa, myself, and my husband. This was back in, I think, January. No, actually it was in May when we went to Colombia to visit. But my play memory is around this accordion. My grandpa has been playing the accordion since I can remember. And when I was young, my cousin and I would put the accordion on its back, just like you see this one on the right hand side. And we would put pieces of paper between the folds and play secretary or office or anything like that. And this is actually my favorite play memory. Although I did have a lot of toys, but every time I spent time in my grandparents' house, we just had to find a way and create our own toys. And luckily we were surrounded by people who allowed this play to happen and actually encouraged our creativity. So I just want you to relate to what you decided your favorite memory was, and think about if those toys were expensive or if there were any toys involved. A lot of favorite play memories take place outside, but just think about it and think about if they were toys that made sounds and were colorful and plastic, or if they were just things that you made into your own toy. Okay, so let's get started on our choosing toys discussion. So the most important thing that a toy must have or must be is open-ended. And what makes an open-ended toy? It's basically something, it can be an object, it can be an actual toy, but that can have flexibility, that can change into things that children can put their own imagination into it. In this picture, you will see, I don't know if you're familiar with our sensory tub, we usually have beans or water or sand in it. And a child simply brought the babies from our imagination area into here and pretended like the beans were water, brought all the bath time things. As you can see, we have a bottle of soap or shampoo, some rubber duckies and things, and he just brought it over. He brought it over and just started playing with the babies. Now what I find more interesting about this picture, and I will not tell you who this child is, but what I find most interesting about this picture is that when he brought him over, I just, I went along with it and said, oh, I guess, we're giving the babies a bath and this and that. And I take a lot of pictures in our school because I want to document the learning and what's happening. But as soon as I took my phone out and was going to take the picture, he said, no, don't take a picture. And he ran. He literally ran from the sensory tub. And I said, don't worry. I mean, I'm just taking a picture. You don't have to be in it. And so, it was interesting that he didn't want to be photographed while taking care of babies or doing something remotely maternal. And after this, he was actually pretty rough with the babies. So although this is about choosing toys, I'm sorry I went into a little bit of a tangent on the importance of letting children play with things that may be socially known as girly things or boyish things, even though, just allowing them to choose what they want to play with. And actually, playing with babies and playing, you know, cooking and all these things are so important for boys because they will have children one day and you want them to be nurturing to their children. So they're just, most of the time, they're acting what they see. So it's actually a great thing to see them being nurturing and loving to these babies. It just tells me, it tells everybody that that's how they feel. They feel loved and cared for. So back to the toy. These babies are very versatile because I mean they can cry and they actually, the child cries for the baby or says thank you and all these things instead of having the babies that do everything for the child. We have the babies that burp and cry and pee and everything. And so it leaves nothing to the imagination of the child. These babies were very inexpensive. They were $10 each from IKEA, and they're very cuddly. But they don't do anything for the child. The child needs to make the baby cry. The child needs to make the baby sing. Everything. So that's what I mean by being open-ended. The play is not built into the toy. The child needs to put the play into the toy. So I love these babies, and I love how the beans suddenly became water. And so yeah, this is a great example of what open-ended toys are like. Two materials, and it may be hard for you to see which two materials I'm talking about, but there are only two materials, and the children have turned them into completely different things because the materials are open-ended and flexible. So one of the materials are stones, and these are just regular stones from Hobby Lobby, or you really can find them anywhere. And originally, I had put them out in a little bin that had separate compartments. And my hope and the reason why I put them out there was to make patterns. So I just had them out there. Well, as you can see on the top left hand side, we have some pasta. Those stones turned into pasta. And during this play, we had a grumpy customer and a very nice customer. And Ryan actually was the one that told me, because I am the voice of the puppets, he told me to make one of them grumpy and one of them a happy customer. And of course, he gave the best service to the happy customer. And he even gave him gold afterwards. And the gold was just little plastic chips that I had for measuring. So children will make great things out of nothing. So that's one use for those stones, those little pebbles. There's some tiles too. And then right below that, you can see there's a winter scene. The black is the ground, the straight line that goes down. Well, it's diagonal in the picture, but the straight line is the ground. And then the two or three black pebbles are a snowman. And then at the top where all the snow is falling, obviously it's snow. So it went from being a pasta to being a winter scene. Very versatile, very open-ended. Now we move over to the pipes, PVC pipes. I made a set of PVC pipes, and actually in none of these pictures are they being used like I originally intended them to, but that's awesome. That's great. That's what I'm learning that's what I want. I want them to surprise me, and I want them to come up with new ideas that I'd never thought about. So I have a pipe set, and I believe it was in the October newsletter. I had the instructions on how to make this pipe set. It's very, very cheap. I think it was a total of $40 or $50 for a whole pipe set, and this will last forever. I already know it. It's wonderful. And originally, it was to make structures, in the construction area. Well, here we have, where we have the two boys, Aiden and Alex, we have a telephone. It's actually called a, hold on, I don't want to say it wrong, loud voice maker, I believe is what it's called. Because you can amplify your voice this way. Now, next to it, you'll see we used it in the water table to conduct water from one side to the other and make all kinds of different directions for the water to go. This is definitely a favorite for children. And sometimes, and this is kind of a confession a little bit, sometimes you have to step back and realize, how much fun they're having. I actually had this water table for about 2 weeks, and it was a little too much for me, to be honest, because it was too much fun, if you can believe it. The children loved it, and there was so much language being produced, and that I could put comprehensible input into their brains, I guess, from this activity. But it was very, very messy and loud. And although I love messy and loud, this kind of went right above my my level of, just right at my threshold. So I took it away, and about a week ago, for those of you that follow us on Facebook, you'll know what happened. But a student, he's only 6 years old, he had a complaint. We vote, and actually you can see the suitcases up here in the restaurant. You can see we actually vote on the materials that we have in the classroom, and we can decide if we love it or if we don't like it. And if enough people don't like a material, I will take it away. I'll just take it out of the classroom because there's no need for it. And if enough people love it, maybe I might add something to it, and I'll make sure that it stays in the classroom. So, back when we had the water table, everybody said they loved it. And there was only one person really in the whole school who didn't love it, and that was me. So that's why I took it away. And about sometime last week, I received a serious complaint from one of my students saying, when are you going to bring the water back? And so I said, well, sometime soon. Some children like the beans that we have. And he said, yeah, but we all voted me encanta, which means I love it. And, that's one of our, we can vote, I like it, I don't like it, I kind of like it, or I love it. And I love it is me encanta. And so he was right. They all voted me encanta. And so why did I take it away? That wasn't that wasn't right. So that's a little bit of my confession. I am actually bringing it back next week so that we can actually have a fair democratic classroom. And, that's something important also for parents to know, that when something is fun, for our children, and they actually are going to learn a lot from it. Even though it looks like they're just playing is learning. And I have a whole binder at school on research and why play equals learning. So if you're interested in that, you can come and read through it. But it's important for us to look at the activity, and for example, this was too loud for me, but who owned that problem? It was my problem. It was too loud for me. Nobody else had that problem. Nobody was getting hurt. everybody was learning new things. And so it's important to realize who owns the problem sometimes. Sometimes we get mad at our children, we yell at our children. Well, I don't yell at children, but okay. Sometimes we get mad and frustrated with our children because we have a problem with it, because we have a low tolerance for certain things, or because we are tired, or so many things. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Obviously, I do it too, and but it's important to listen to children. I'm so glad I had that complaint because it made me realize that yes, they wanted to play that again, and it was my responsibility as their facilitator in the classroom to bring back what they enjoy doing. So I think everyone will be very excited to see the water table coming back with all the tubes and everything. So, and I will hopefully be a little more prepared for it this time. Um, okay, so now when we move up and we see Nathaniel, he built a whole city with the wooden blocks, but the PVC pipes are actually a parking lot for his cars, for the cars that come to different buildings. So, as you can see, PVC pipes turned into all kinds of different toys without any batteries, without any sounds, without any instructions, and they love it. They're because they're in charge of it, because they can decide and they can create. So obviously these toys you will not find at a regular store, a toy store anyway, but your children will love them. So okay, so now we're moving on to no batteries. For those of you who had visited Bilingual Family, I think you have seen that we don't have any toys with batteries, and the children love coming to Bilingual Family. Um, so it's not something that they miss. It's not something that they need. And I actually have a little story to tell you about an experience that we had with a battery operated toy at Bilingual Family. And I had never heard of this toy before. I actually don't really know much about toys because we mostly have materials and open-ended things. So it's called a hex bug toy, and one of our students brought it to class. And at first, I was really skeptical about letting him just play with it in class because other children might want to play with it, and we might run into sharing problems. And so I just took a deep breath and just said to myself, if something happens, I'll deal with it then, but nobody's getting hurt, and we'll just see where it goes. So I just let him play with it, and soon our other student arrived, and they started playing with it together, which was great. Basically, this little bug goes into tunnels, and you turn it on, and its little legs move. They kind of vibrate, and so they go around, and they can climb. So it's pretty cool. I was interested in it for about 2 minutes, and so were they. They put it through the tunnel, watched it go up, and thought it was really cool. This one was actually a newer version that had legs, both on its bottom and on its top, so that it could climb and go around. And anyway, they played with it for about 2 minutes, and then they took the bug out and they started testing it around the classroom and seeing where it would climb. Um, I'm not sure what the technology is in the hex bug tunnels, but it wouldn't climb hardly anywhere. So I would say a total of 5 minutes passed, and they simply put it away. They both just said, "This is boring. Let's move on to the next thing," and that was the end of it. So there's no need to spend so much money. I'm sure this was a pretty expensive toy, um, because the children don't want to do that. They want to create, and they want to do things that challenge them. And this toy simply, I mean, I know I only have had one experience with it, but it didn't seem like they could be challenged very much, or creative, or any of the wonderful things that we want our children to be, um, with this toy. So this is just one example, but there's so many other things. For example, cash registers. I was a big fan of cash registers because there's so much language can be produced with playing the store, and that's one of my students' favorite games. So cash registers I used to like. However, when it came time to opening the school, I didn't have the funds to buy a toy register, so I just thought, well, I'll just, we actually didn't have a store at the time in our imagination area. We just had the kitchen and the bed and some dress-up clothes. And then as time passed, the children started playing restaurant just on their own, and they made pebbles money, and they figured it out. They figured out a way to make it happen, even though there wasn't a cash register saying we're going to play store. So that was wonderful. And about a month ago, I went to a Goodwill store, and I found an old calculator, one of those big calculators that could be printed off, that you could print things off from it. And it was a pretty big investment. It was about $2. And so I purchased it and brought it to our store area, because we now have a store area which has a whiteboard on there, and they can change it from a restaurant to anything. We've had a toy store, we've had a vet, we've had it actually doesn't only have to be a store. It can also be services like a veterinarian. We've had many things. And so I put the calculator there because I thought, this can be a semi-register of some sort. And most of the children used it as a register, but one in particular, instead of charging each item, he would take the whole basket of items and make it rest on a button, and that would weigh the basket. And according to the weight of the basket was how much you paid. Okay, so here are some examples. As you can see, I've already talked about most of these, but the PVC pipes are one of my favorites and one of the children's favorites. And you can make these, and it's it can be a great gift for your child. You can even involve them in the making of them, because right here we have the fittings, the ends, and we also have the different sizes. But since it's at your house, we have limited space here, but since these will be used at your house, maybe you can make them an outside toy, and then in that case they can be as long as you want them to be, or as long as your children want them to be. And they can make actual structures that they can go into. I've seen little doll houses being made out of these, all kinds of things that can only be made when you have that space. So that's an option. You can make them outside. We also have the wooden blocks, which are timeless, and children love them from every age. Every age loves wooden blocks. And also, I'm also a fan of Legos, although recently the Legos come with so many instructions, and they're made to resemble something from a movie, or made to resemble something from real life. So it's hard for children to create. I actually just recently got a set of Legos for the school because so many of the times when we were voting on what was inside of our suitcases, I usually shake it up to have them guess what they think is inside. And when it was something small, most of the time they were saying it was Legos. So that just gave me some clues about what they were interested in. So I got some Legos. And the first couple of times I left the little instruction booklet in there. And most children just, that's all they did. They couldn't create. So they just followed the instructions. And I'm not saying that following instructions is a bad thing. But in terms of creating, and then that's really what Legos are about. That's what we are all about, is creativity. It kind of kills it. So the following week after I introduced the Legos, the instructions disappeared. I'm not sure what happened to them, and it was amazing. Nobody missed them, and some of the most wonderful structures I've ever seen came about. And they were posed with serious problems about structures, and they had to get creative because we had a limited amount of Legos and a limited amount of sizes, so they had to solve problems instead of just looking at a piece of paper and looking for that, matching that specific color and that specific size to make their end result. So I love Legos now that I've taken the instructions away. And down here we have Play-Doh. In the September newsletter, I have the recipe for Play-Doh, and they love it. They absolutely love it. And originally, it was literally just for a sensory experience. And one of our students just started making monsters with, because it was during Halloween, during October. And so I guess monsters were in his mind. And he started putting googly eyes, which are available for them to use at any time in our creation area. And he just started putting some googly eyes on it and making it a monster. And other friends liked that idea, and they started doing it as well. So the monsters dried really nicely, and so now we have beautiful sculptures from Play-Doh. So it can be used in many, obviously Play-Doh is very versatile, and you can also make sculptures with it. So then here we have our shelf that we have in our creation area. And this actually, I don't have a picture of our new recycling center, but our recycling center now has plastic, cardboard, and paper. And children, can bring it from home, and they can use it for anything that they want to. We have had some amazing things, amazing creations come about since we introduced this recycling center. And then here in the bottom we have a simple notepad. This was something that I usually take notes on the individualized vocabulary that I cover with each child, and I send it to the parents at the end of the day. But one day I just decided to put one of these notepads in a suitcase and have the children vote on it. And I was not expecting this much excitement. I mean, they were coming up with so many ideas. They said, oh, we can play restaurant, and we can play this, and we can take notes, and just so many things. So that's actually how the restaurant came about, and how our little store area came about. But something as simple as a notepad. They love doing adult things, and this is one, taking notes and taking orders is one of those things. And here we have someone who is not even writing yet, or maybe feels more comfortable drawing things instead of writing the actual item. But what I ordered was a water and a Krabby Patty, because that's what was offered at this restaurant. So he drew it. He drew exactly what I ordered. And yeah, so like I said, it's just all about thinking about the possibilities that the toy can provide and making sure it's something that's very flexible, that really the child can bring their creativity into the toy and use it how they want to use it, and really challenge them and pose problems and help them with problem solving, instead of having the parents spend hours putting the toy together so that the child can play with it for 2 minutes and then move on to the next thing and play with the box that the actual toy came in. So I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is on our website, bilingualfamily.us, and I look forward to our next family life class. Have a great weekend.